All right, welcome everybody. Let's do this. Lesson 12, overcoming obstacles and factoring, okay? Before we do example 1 and exercise 1, what I'd like you to do is just try and do this question here. It says, find all real solutions to the equation x squared plus 6x plus 8 and x squared minus 5x plus 6, okay? And notice that it's equal to 0. So basically what we're doing is we're finding the zeros of this and we're finding the zeros of that. Try and do it by yourself, but if you want to see how it's done, basically we just take each one of these, right? X squared plus 6x plus 8, it equals 0. And the other one is x squared minus 5x plus 6, and that equals 0, right? And now what do we do? Can we factor this? Yeah, this is x plus 4, x plus 2 equals 0, right? And this is x minus 3, x minus 2 equals 0. And then here, we just do x plus 4 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0, x minus 2 equals 0, and my zeros are negative 4, negative 2, 3, and 2. Okay? And this is pretty straightforward, right? We've done so many of these. But let's go to a question like this, right? And here, we have the same idea, right? If we have find all real solutions of this equation, well, we're just going to do the same thing we did over here, right? We're just going to set both, we're going to set this to 0 and set that to 0. Okay, so let's do that. So here we have x squared minus 6x plus 3 equals 0, and 2x squared minus 4x minus 7, and that's equal to 0, right? And then what do we need to do? We need to factor, right? And just like this here, we factor this into these two. So here, what two numbers when you multiply give you 3, but when you add give you negative 6? I want you to pause the video and try and think about what it is, okay? If you're coming back, it is not factorable, right? You cannot factor this into 2 because there is no combination that works. And for this one as well, if I wanted to factor this, I would have to do AC method, right? So this is 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. But then what two numbers when I multiply give me negative 14 and when I add give me negative 4? It's not possible, right? Because if I have negative 7 and 2 or 2 and negative 7, these don't give me negative 4 when I add them. So how do I solve what the zeros are here? Before, we did it in the calculator, right? What would I do to find, here, let's get the Wizzy out. Here, first let me, second, memory, reset. And what I want you to do is find the zeros for this using your calculator, right? Okay, so let's do that. So y is equal to, what do we do? X squared minus 6x plus 3, right? You hit graph. Okay, and what does the graph look like? It looks something like this, right? And then what do I want to do? I want to find the zero. So I go second, trace, I go to 0, I hit enter, and then notice it says left bound, right? So I go to the left of it, I hit enter, I go to the right of it, I hit enter, enter, and one of my zeros is 0.5, so x is equal to 0.5505103, right? Oh no, this should be an O, sorry, 0. And then what's the other one? Let's see, if I go second trace and I go 0, I go to this side. This is my left bound is over here, right? I hit enter, I go right bound, enter, enter, and guess, and then the other x is equal to 5.449, okay? But you see, how do we figure out what the zeros are over here when you cannot factor it? We need to use something called the quadratic formula, okay? Maybe you have seen this in your other classes, in your other math classes, I hope. But how do I use this quadratic formula to figure out what these x's are and not use the calculator, right? So that's what we have to do. Here, if this is the quadratic formula, you say negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. How do we use this to get this, right? And note, you need to have 0 on one side of the equation to use the quadratic formula, and here we have 0. So here, The way we use this is, if we have some ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, right? Here, what is my a? My a, there's a 1 here. So a is 1, which is the coefficient of the x squared. What's my b? It's negative 6, right? And what's my c? It's 3. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to plug a, b, and c into this function, into this formula. So I'm going to have x is equal to negative, right? And what I want you to do is, you shouldn't just be watching me do this. You should be writing it down at the same time, okay? So I have negative, negative. What's my b value? My b value is negative 6, right? So then I'm going to put parentheses negative 6, parentheses close, plus or minus, right? And you see how I'm very exact. Square root, okay? B squared. So what's b? B is negative 6. So it's negative 6 squared minus 4 times the a times the c. And I have this, and it's all over 2 times a, which is 1. Okay? So we should have all of this. But now we just have to simplify this. So here we have negative times negative is positive. So this is positive 6 plus or minus the square root of. What is negative 6 squared? That's 36 minus 4 times 1 times 3 is 12. And that's all over 2. Okay? Then x is equal to 6 plus or minus, what is 36 minus 12? That's 24 over 2. And now this part is the part I'm very scared about, because I'm not sure if a lot of you know how to simplify the square root of 24. Because if I have square root of 24, that's equal to the square root of 4 times the square root of 6. But what's the square root of 4? It's 2 radical 6. Okay? So this and this are equal. So now I can say x is equal to 6 plus or minus 2 radical 6 over 2. Okay? And then once I get to this point over here, let me zoom in the camera just a little bit. Once I get to this point here, I can say that this is equal to 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 radical 6 over 2, right? Because this 2 is dividing this, and this 2 is dividing this whole thing. And what's 6 divided by 2? It's 3 plus or minus, and these 2's cancel out, square root of 6, okay? And this is it. This is what x is equal to, okay? And here you can say x is equal to 3 plus square root of 6, x is equal to 3 minus square root of 6, right? And notice that when we have this over here at the very end, let's just check our calculator. What is 3 plus square root of 6? Notice that this 3 plus square root of 6, hopefully it will equal these two guys, right? It has to equal x equals 0.55 and x equals 5.4, because that's what we got when we graphed it over here. So here, let's see, what is 3 plus square root of 6? So let's see, let's go to our calculator, right, and let's zoom in. Okay, so let's see, 3 plus second square root 6, and bam, we got that 5.4, which matched over there. And let's try the other one, 3 minus second square root of 6, and it's 0.55, and these numbers match. Okay, so it was 0.55 and 5.4, and these are the solutions. Or you could have it like this. Okay, what I want you to do is, hopefully for you guys, plugging in should be okay. The only part I think you guys are not so okay with is this. All right, and I'm going to try and show this to you in class, like how do we simplify radicals. Okay, what I want you to do is go through the lesson. Go through, try and do this one using quadratic formula, this one quadratic formula, and this one quadratic formula. Try and do all three of these. Okay, I'll see you.